everybody. Welcome to Kingdom of Honor. I'm your host, Zanman Shane Sweeney, along with my good buddy over there, the Honorable Jeff. And we're here today for the first time ever on video for one of our pop culture reviews. Today we're talking about, Jeff, what are we talking about today?
Jupiter's Legacy. And again, I am so glad that we didn't split this up into two parts because just like Shadow and Bone, this one got so much better in the second half.
It really did. I would actually say it got better like at the end of the second episode, maybe.
Yeah, I
Um,
was going to say, I thought the third episode took a twist and went a whole different direction. And that was when I started going all in. But even from there, it kept building and building and building until that final scene, which had me doing. I sent you a bunch of what the fuck memes because I was just like, what? No, that was one of the better. And you guys, of course, as always, spoiler alert. Secondly, welcome to our new format. We're not going to be as live as we were, but we're going to give you little images of things. Shane edited a video from yesterday, his book addiction review that has some hysterical stuff in it. And then, we'll be uploading these on, our wrestling podcast will be up on Monday. This pop culture podcast will be up on Wednesdays, and then Shane's book review will be up on Fridays. And that'll be kind of the format going forward. And to be honest, I kind of like it. I got to see Rhaegar give me the dog meme face, the stone dog meme face yesterday. My cat brought her tail through my face a few times. It was entertaining.
Yeah, it sure was. And guys, Jupiter's Legacy, I was, when I started watching it on the first episode, I was like, oh, okay, so I get it. It's like, if Superman was an old man and he had kids, but it actually, it actually evolved past that kind of. The one thing I really liked about this, Jeff, is first of all, when Mark Millar sold his studio to Netflix like 3 years ago, because Netflix was planning on losing their Marvel properties and having and still being able to make like comic book movies that actually were already out in the public. I mean, they had to deal with Rob Liefeld as well at one point, and that fell through. Which I think having like a Bloodstorm movie would have been, or TV series would have just been amazing, but it didn't end up happening. But I've been kind of waiting to see what they did first for Miller World. And that's also like where like Wanted came from, and that's also where like Kick Ass came from, was Miller World, but that's not part of the deal because those rights were already sold. But so it was interesting to see this come up. But one thing I'm really excited about it with it, Jeff, is that these are comic stories that we don't know yet. I mean, I know you read a little bit about it on Friday.
For the fact, because there's one thing, and we're going to talk about, there's one thing that happened throughout this series that really had me going, why? So I had to get some backstory to find out what the hell happened, and hopefully they explore in season 2 or volume 2 or whatever they're calling it. Because I'm going to be honest, after reading his story, I'm intrigued by the character, and I want to see what happened to him.
It's really nice to see an origin story of something that I don't already know the origin of. I felt the same way about Warrior Nun when we watched it.
Right.
Because a lot of times these origin stories for these heroes, I just get so bored with because I already know them. Even Wolverine, that one I kind of, even though they changed things on it, I kind of knew that. Superman I knew, Batman I knew, so Captain America, Wonder Woman, all of them I basically already knew their origin stories of. So watching those origin story movies that were important for new viewers or new fans were just kind of dry and boring to me a lot of the time. And this one did not feel that way, as partly because we're seeing an origin story for their kids. At the same time, we're seeing Flashback to an origin story for them and how they got their powers and their and how their lives are set up. Basically.
That's what I was going to say. I mean, most origin story movies follow the same trope. We spend the first half of it getting their origin story, and then the second half of them defeating whatever it was. The only one I can think that was different than that off the top of my head was Captain Marvel. I mean, her origin story technically came at the end when she found out how she got her powers. But other than that, this is the way I want to see origin stories. I want a present day story being told and flashbacks showing me how they got their powers and why they are who they are and that kind of stuff. And I thought this did a great job of stretching that out throughout the entire season, as opposed to giving us the first 2 episodes of them getting their powers going on the boat and all that shit.
I wish there was like a timestamp thing on here so I could actually like make myself a timestamp of where I need to put in there Captain Marvel, the $1 billion failure in text. So I'll just say it live right now. But I mean, it was such a it made $1 billion for him, right? But
Right.
it's really a failure because like now Brie Larson is just like considered to be like a kind of a horrible person to Marvel fans, and
Which I don't understand why. I
her,
mean,
her character is such a her character is kind of a bitch. Always has been in the comics. So now that's what was supposed to be Captain Marvel 2 is now called the Marvels.
you're kidding me.
No, it's because it's going to have Captain Marvel. It's going to have Monica Rambeau's Captain Marvel. Plus, it's going to have uh, Kamala Khan's Ms. Marvel. So
Okay.
it's going to be like a kind of like a female, kind of a female power type movie. And I also saw in there that Kamala Khan is going to have like Green Lantern type powers, which is not what she has in the comics.
No, that's no. Even I mean, they just released an Avengers video game that focused on her.
Yep.
So we've got a story, an origin story, literally for her, just in that Avengers video game that just released, what, 3-4 months ago?
A year ago.
Was it a year ago now?
Yeah.
Okay, it was on PS Now. It just came to PS Now like 3-4 months ago, and I played through it. And it's an amazing game, but no, you can't change up her powers. Just bring us Green Lantern.
I think that well, Green Lantern's is in a different universe.
Oh yeah. You're
But
right.
but I
Sorry,
think
Marvel.
my guess is the reason they're changing up her powers is because they've also got the Fantastic Four movie coming up, and she basically has the same powers as Reed Richards, right?
No, hers are cooler. Reed's just stretchy. She's figured out how to, like super clap and punch people, and none of the stuff that Reed Richards ever did. Reed
Oh, the stuff.
Richards,
You mean the stuff that the rest of his team did for him?
yeah, I mean Reed Richards was just a smart guy who was stretchy and would occasionally go under a door to unlock it. He never really got into the where, and he would also do more shape shifting. She doesn't do shape shifting. She just uses her powers to, other than turn into a ball occasionally. She'll use her powers just to jump farther,
You
or
said ball.
to jump farther, or to punch farther, or it's a whole different set of powers, even though it's technically the same one.
Gotcha. Well, maybe they're planning on doing that kind of stuff for Reed in the movies. Who knows? But
Make
yeah.
him
So
actually do something, because he didn't do anything in the other 3 except be smart and stretchy.
right. So in this movie, in this show, let's get back to
Yeah, we
uh
like to ramble, don't we? Well,
Jupiter's
I do.
Legacy. Well, yeah, I mean, and that was all STEM for me, but that's okay. So Jupiter's Legacy follows Utopia, or the Utopian, who basically is a Superman analog. He's got the super strength, he's got the flight, he's got the laser beams, eyes, all that kind of stuff
Right.
going on. And when we first see him in kind of present day, he's like, we see his kids first, and they're playing, and the little girl knocks down this kid they're playing with, and he runs away, and her dad's like, you can't be doing that, your powers, that kind of stuff.
Keep
And
in
now
mind what power she used. This is the one that kind of threw me off.
it was kind of like a sonic scream, wasn't it?
Exactly, it was like a canary scream.
Yeah.
And that's where that the thing, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there, because you're
No, you're
setting stuff
fine.
up here.
Go
But
ahead.
one of the things I really liked about this was the fact that they all had unique powers, but not super unique. Like Chloe had that sonic scream plus her strength and flight and everything. Paragon, Brandon, he was, that's Sheldon's, Utopia's. I guess we didn't really set up the character names, but Sheldon is Utopia. His son and daughter are Brandon and Chloe, and then his wife is Gail. Gail is what's her name, Lady Liberty. She was a newspaper writer, but way back in the 20s, that came along on the journey because of Sheldon's vision, and they ended up getting married, having Brandon and Gail, or Brandon and
Chloe.
Chloe. Chloe went rogue, I guess. they're having daddy issues. Their daddy was too famous and more caring about saving the world than actually being a daddy. Plus, he had this whole set of rules, which is the driving force of the entire season. It's the driving force of the dissension within the union. It's the driving force of his whole character growth and story throughout, and it's the driving force that ends up turning um, that ends up with the twist at the end, which even now I don't want to spoil it. I should just come out and say it, but that
I just want to sort of, guys, the code that Jeff's talking about is we don't rule
and we
or
don't kill.
we don't kill. So
Yep, we don't rule and we don't kill. But what's happening is the that might have worked in the 20s and 30s and 40s, and we find out that one of the good friends, one of the original six, Sheldon's best friend George, ended up becoming Skyfox, because he was on the journey that gave them all superpowers too. And
yeah, but everybody knows though that Sheldon's real best friend is Leonard.
Yeah. I'd like to go one episode without working in a Big Bang Theory reference.
We've got plenty with that, but I mean, you've got a Sheldon in here, man. You got Sheldon
Right.
in here. Not only is Sheldon, but a superhero, which is what Sheldon has kind of always wanted to be his entire life, as a superhero.
Exactly.
It's really this would have been a really difficult episode not to have Big Bang Theory come up at all.
Believe me, that was the first thing every time they said Sheldon, that's the first thing I thought of too, was Big Bang Theory. Literally every time I was waiting for Leonard and Penny to come out. But anyway, back to where I was going. In the beginning, we find out Paragon, which is Brandon, is Sheldon Utopian's son, who is being groomed to be the next Utopian. However, he's a kid, he's hot-headed, he doesn't have all his powers yet. He gets mocked by the criminals and ultimately mocked by his dad, because his dad does not believe that he'll ever be able to uphold his morals, basically. And what ends up happening is, and this is the first episode, what ends up happening is a big bad comes out, taking out the entire union, ends up killing multiple of Brandon's friends that are supposed to be this next generation of superheroes. Brandon goes nuts, punches him so hard that he kills Black Star.
Right? Yeah, punches him like right in the fuck.
Yeah, like, I mean, caved his whole face in. I mean, dead. And that's his dad's number one rule: do not kill. And that causes
and let you, I just want to say this, Jeff, before I forget to say it. Sheldon is a dick.
Oh yeah.
I do not like that guy at all.
I liked him when they did the 20s flashbacks. It's weird because of the brothers, Walt, who ended up being what was his name, Thinker. I think his name was.
The Thinker. I can't remember. I'll look it up while you're talking.
Okay, but in the beginning of the show, in present day, we see Sheldon and his brother Walt, and Walt comes across as the really, really nice, genuine, easygoing, listening to people guy, and Sheldon comes across as it's my way or the highway. I'm just gonna tell you you're all stupid and you believe it. So it's like you got Walt, who's a nice guy, and Sheldon's who's the dick. But then when you roll that back and they start doing the 20s flashbacks after the stock market crash in 29, the roles are reversed. Walt is the complete dick in the flashbacks, and Sheldon's the nice guy that everybody loves until he starts going crazy.
Yeah, Walt is Brainwave.
Brainwave, okay.
So yeah. I don't know. I thought even like in the past, Sheldon was kind of maybe not as much of a dick as he is in the present day, but he was just so naive that he was just not a guy that I don't think he was a guy that I ever could have like really wanted to hang out with.
But when you first saw the first maybe half dozen flashbacks when they were showing him in the mill, with his interactions with the everybody in the mill and then his father and everything, you could tell that he was the one that everybody loved and Walt was the one everybody hated.
Yeah.
And that came out later on, I think, in the final episode, where that was one of Walt's reasons for hating his own brother, was because Sheldon walked on water and he didn't. And nobody ever listened to him. And you find out after that, that's the driving force of the entire last century for Walt, because he's been planning this for decades, this whole thing. And the whole twist at the end, and like we said before, spoiler alerts if you haven't seen it, shame on you. Go watch it, then come back and listen. But the whole thing with the
Yeah, shame on you, audience. Jeff, come on. We want people watching this. Not we don't want to be shaming our audience.
oh, fair enough. Good point. Good point. Bad Jeff. Anyway, so the whole twist at the end is that Walt is behind this whole. He's behind the whole Brandon, Paragon, Utopian, Sheldon breakup, trying to break up the family. He's behind Black Star. It turns out that the Black Star that Sheldon killed was actually a clone. And, this was all set up by Brainwave, Walt, to take over the Union, getting Sheldon kind of bounced out of it and take over the Union, so that he can rebuild it in his image, which will allow killing, which will allow the superheroes ruling the world, type of thing. And to me, I didn't see that twist coming. You had mentioned that you felt like he was the bad guy all along, and I'm watching this going, what I felt like at the island when they put their stuff behind them and their interactions, after the island, I felt like it was a dead and buried subject. But you can tell that he's still, a century later, still has this driving force to upend his brother and to make himself the most powerful person, the one that everyone listens to instead of his brother.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, he is still he's still the well, and not only that, but he's also still the pragmatic of the two, right?
Right.
He's still the one that sees though the big picture. He's not doesn't have even Sheldon. Basically has carried his idealistic stuff as when he was a kid and growing up and being raised by his dad and like looking at the world the way the way that he wanted to see it kind of, and he still kind of has done the same thing where with these rules, and this code is just not realistic. It may have been, like you said, it might have been in the 20s, but he has not been willing to adapt it. He's not been willing to change with the times. And um, regardless of whether Walt has been planning this for the last 80 years or I guess it's 100 years now, right? Or
It's
not.
90, it's like 92 years because it's set in 2021 and they got their
Yeah.
powers in 1929. So
Right. After the stock market crash. That's right. So he's been, even if he's been planning it all this time, you still have to look at it and say, well, somebody's got to do it, right? Because superheroes are dying left and right because supervillains don't have any rules,
yeah,
and
because they're killing.
because they're killing them, and they never did before. I mean, before, and really, if you look at it, it mirrors the way comic books are, right? I mean, comic books in the golden age, they did, that's how villains were. Like they're kind of like the mustache twirly, and they were kind of like the goofy villains that would kind of they'd get beat down. Now as it's progressed through the Silver Age, and now they do kill, right? Magneto
Yeah,
kills, Joker kills, Penguin kills,
it
so
wasn't, I mean, the villains kill, yes, but the superheroes, even except DC over the last, what, 5 years has kind of taken a little turn where now they're okay with killing the bad guy, because they've gotten a little darker. But DC might have been the last ones to jump on that bandwagon. Marvel's been killing their enemies for their villains for decades.
right. But I'm saying it's just progressed over time, you know.
Right.
So this is kind of an example of that progressing over time, where now the villains were killing, and now are the heroes going to start killing, other than Brandon in
Right.
in this agent. And it was I just always got like the sense from Walter that there was something sinister going on inside. I didn't necessarily know that he had, when I saw that final episode, I didn't necessarily know that he was the one that created Black Star, or that he was the one that had or that he was like going to he was framing George basically.
Yeah.
But I knew there was something sinister going on, and that he was going to try to I didn't know that he had planned it all, but it seemed like to me he was going to turn it to his own purposes, and it turned out he
Well,
actually did plan it all.
and I mean, they keep talking about how George was Sky Fox. He was one of the original six that got the superpowers, started the Union and everything. And he's not a part of this episode. He's a part of the flashbacks, but not a part of present day. And we find out the reason why is because in the '60s, he turned on the Union. Ended up leaving the Union. But here's the thing: if he's a supervillain who's hell bent to destroy the Union, where's he been for the last 40 years? He just disappeared. He just, and we get a glimpse of him at the end, and he has his hatred towards Walt in when Walt pulls him into Black Star's brain and they have that little battle and everything. His hatred towards Walt is more of a I hate you, not everybody.
Was that actually George though, or was that just part
Nope.
of?
From the reviews I was reading, because remember he has that ability to pull people into his own mind. He did it with his daughter a couple of times. He did it with Black Star that one point. When he wants to have a side conversation with somebody, he pulls them into a separate world.
So how did he find it?
I don't know. He's brainwave. He's probably just like Dr. X, who can find anybody, any mutant anywhere.
Interesting.
But the way
Um,
the way that and stuff I was reading about it afterwards, because the main reason I started reading stuff about it is because there's one character, his name's Roger. He's very, very, very much a part of.
let's not go there yet, if you don't mind.
Okay, okay, all right.
So I just want to say, I thought, after seeing what happened at the end, I thought that Brainwave had just created like his own like avatar version of um George in Black Star's mind, so that Gail or that Lady Liberty would see it and would therefore think that George was behind it. I didn't think it
Well,
was the actual George that he had pulled in.
I mean, George was one of the first to question Sheldon's feelings and all that stuff, and that they should be killing enemies and everything back in the 60s. But they really never explained why he turned. But when I was, reading, a lot of it was that, Walt had set him up to be the fall guy so that he could blame George. Like he had this long-term plan of overthrowing Sheldon, and it all started with George, him framing George to take the fall for something and leave the Union.
60 years later.
Yeah, yeah. I
Wow,
mean,
that's crazy.
it's like madness when I started reading the way that, because I guess in the storylines, I mean, on TV, we're seeing how Hutch and Chloe are starting a relationship. In the comic books, they start out already married and have kids. In the comic book, Walt is a little more sinister from the start, where I felt like he was a good guy for 7 episodes, almost 8. And then at the end of 8, I was like, holy crap, I didn't realize he was the one that was. And then for him to kill his own daughter too, Jesus, he is a horrible, horrible human being.
He is absolutely. Yeah. So there was a couple things there was one part I thought did not fit with the whole thing about Walt um, being the mastermind behind the Black Star clone, and that was in the very first episode where we saw like Walt go into Black Star's mind and be like, you can't control me, like I rule here. And then like Black Star like grabs him by the throat and it's like choking him
Right.
inside. And then so I would like to them to at some point like explain what the fuck the point of that scene was. But otherwise I think everything fit perfectly. That Walt was the big bad.
Yeah, because he wasn't doing that. That wasn't a show he was putting on for his fellow teammates. That was just him in Black Star's mind,
Exactly.
unless it was a way to let them feel like or think that he was actually doing his job.
Yeah.
That's
Or maybe yeah, I guess the other possibility is that yeah, he created the Black Star clone, but it turned out he couldn't actually control it.
yeah, there's that possibility too. But I mean, this is another one. Like, we talk about super villain plans all the time, about how they're so it's like the Joker. When he has a plan, it's all predicated on a billion coincidences coming together and just happening. And that's kind of where Walt's thing goes too. It's like he was counting on Brandon killing that clone of Black Star. What if Brandon hadn't done it?
Yep.
What if, there's so many different directions that this could have gone. What if Sheldon really did just zap Black Star at the end instead of delaying like he did? And, at the end of it, I was like, that's one thing too, that conversation between Walt and Sheldon at the end, when he's talking about, I feel like I'm losing Brandon. And I was thinking, well, you almost let your kid die. But then at the same time, Brandon gave that nice little speech before they went and fought Black Star. They seemed like they were on the same page. Brandon didn't kill the real Black Star. So I don't understand. It felt like that was, I don't know. Obviously, he was upset that his dad didn't just zap Black Star, but it felt like he was coming around to Sheldon's way of thinking. So I didn't understand why he felt like he was losing his son.
Um, I think he just feels like if he keeps up, if he keeps being the leader, I think it's more like he needs to step back from being the leader to try to like mentor his son more and maybe get his family back together.
I
You
mean,
know, and
maybe that's it, but it felt like to me that they were on the same page. Um, and just because, I mean, he said, "Yeah, I wouldn't have let you die." And who knows if he would have or wouldn't. I mean, it looked like he was getting ready to use his laser eyes, but ultimately, I can't remember, that one chick came in from behind and distracted him. Um, but at the same time, when he said, "I wouldn't have let you die," and Walt said, and then Brandon said, "Yeah, I know." Um, to me, it felt like that was a closed story. They're on the same page. And then the very next scene, it's like, I feel like I'm losing Brandon. I didn't feel like he was losing Brandon at that point. I felt like he was, 3, 4 episodes before that. But by that point, I felt like they were on the same page.
I just think that this plan with Walt to have like the clone of Black Star is just like so fucking brilliant because basically no matter what happened, there he was gonna win, right?
Right.
I mean, because he wasn't gonna get killed by his own creation,
Yep.
right? So if if Black Star goes and kills 20 or 30 of the Union, then they're all gonna like they're all gonna be questioning Sheldon even more than they already are.
Right.
If Brandon if Brandon dies, this that or yeah, Brandon dies there or Lady Liberty dies, that's completely make Sheldon probably go nuts and either change the code or again like have to abandon his post and give it over to Walt. If if uh if he or if either Lady Liberty or if Lady Liberty kills um Black Star, um then again Walt's gonna be like, I mean Sheldon's gonna be like really questioning Lady Liberty. There's gonna be a cause of rift with him in his marriage. He's gonna go nuts. He's gonna have to turn over the league to Walt.
Right.
If Sheldon himself kills Black Star to protect his family and the Union, then Sheldon just went against all his beliefs and he's going to be either both questioning himself and kicked out of the Union basically, and again Walt's going to take over the Union. So I just think that plan by Walt is like there's basically like no downside when his plan is not going to end up.
Yeah, that's true. It is funny to note that in the comics, Black Star is kind of like a Steppenwolf, just a little bit player that really is nothing. But
Really,
they pump
because he looks a lot like both Thanos
right.
and
But when I was reading about the backstory, they said they were talking about the big changes from the comics to
Darkseid.
they're thinking or the big changes from the comic books to the TV adaptation, and one of them was Chloe and Hutch already married, and had kids. Another one was Walt was a lot more sinister in the comics right from day one, and the other thing was that Black Star was barely an inconvenience. Um, he was
He was super
and
easy.
yeah, he was super easy, barely an inconvenience. Um, but it was one of those things where they pumped him up to be this horrible big bad that can take out the entire Union all by himself on the TV show because they needed to have that enemy. They couldn't have gone in there with just the story and the drama. In all, I liked this show because I kind of liked even from the beginning the drama. You don't get that a whole lot with superhero flicks,
Right.
or if you do, it's such a buried subplot that it really doesn't help. And this was the entire driving force of the show, was the drama.
Right. And really any changes that were made for from the comics for this show, ultimately you kind of have to be okay with because the executive producer and director and writer of the show was Mark Millar, who
Right,
created the comics, right?
right,
So
right.
You
So
know,
for him to make the changes, hey man, that's editorial approval. Maybe that's his original vision, and he had to dumb it down because of some producer somewhere or some publisher or something like that.
well, and
Um,
it's also a different, you know, medium. Like you're talking about with Roger, and what I'm going to talk about the Roger part because I know you wanted to bring that up, but I mean maybe it's just that you know they're you're going to only focus on a certain number of characters in a TV show as opposed to a comic when you
well,
have
and
many
that's fine.
episodes to do. You know,
And that's fine. You know, I'm okay with that. But I'd like to explore the Roger story later on. Roger
Roger,
is what?
Roger.
Oh, Roger is a one of the original six. He kind of came on board literally in episode 7 because
He was hauled on board. Yeah,
because um, they Sheldon had visions after his dad
I
died.
you know I know I had to make that joke, but you know if I didn't make that joke at that time, the ship would have sailed.
Yeah, exactly. Shut up.
Hey,
So
I try to keep us afloat here, Jeff.
so Sheldon after his
Bring
dad
you a
died,
lifeline. Come on.
Sheldon after his dad died started having visions. Um, you know, and
And
they
Scarlet
were
Witches at the same time.
yeah, and they were really messing with his head. He was starting to talk to himself. He developed drawing skills that he never had. He was going on this quest, and he found out that through this quest, he goes to different, he goes to, where was it? Was it Missouri or Nebraska or something like that? I don't remember, but he just kind of disappeared and was in another state looking for this farm. Then he finds this farm and he finds out about these numbers. And when he's in the basement of the farm, he sees another vision of 6 faces. And those 6 faces ended up being the original 6 superheroes. And he spends, the rest of the season trying to hunt down those people because they have to go to a specific set of coordinates in the ocean. And as they're going, they're down one person. There's one person they can't find. Yeah, but they set sail because the captain of the ship is like, let's get this over with. We're going. We're not waiting any longer. And then it just so happens that they come across a shipwreck, um, and the guy that they pull out of the water and rescue is the 6th member that they were looking for. His name is Roger. And he becomes at that point kind of a big time player in the original storyline. Back in the 20s. I mean, he's having arguments and discussions with everybody, telling stories. He becomes kind of a catalyst once they're on the island and everything. And it just, to me, the fact that he wasn't even mentioned in modern times, like they were all talking about Skyfox deserting them and everything, but did anyone mention Roger once?
Not that I remember. No.
Not one time did they mention Roger. He just was not a part of present day and nobody said anything. So it got me wondering, it's like, why? So I started reading, a little backstory about him, and what he is he's not openly gay, but he is, homosexual. So he's kind of hiding it. J. Edgar Hoover finds out about it and blackmails him because he wants to know the identity of the superheroes, which is odd to me because only 2 of them actually wore helmets. So how the public couldn't figure that out, I don't understand. It's not like they used Superman's glasses to hide the fact that they were superheroes, but whatever, it's
No,
neither here nor there.
And even back in the 20s, you know, Walt George and um Sheldon are having a conversation, and Sheldon's like, yeah, they're going to figure it out eventually. You know,
Right. But in the comic books, Hoover is blackmailing them. So the union finds out about it, and Roger comes out to them. They openly accept him, and they end up turning that whole blackmailing scheme back onto Hoover, and Hoover just leaves him alone from that point.
is Sheldon not? I mean not Sheldon, but and maybe I'm completely wrong, and I know he didn't. And now there's like times where he was like kind of hitting on women too, but I thought George was gay.
I did at times too, but they never really went into that. I mean, he does have a son, Hutch, who's trying to find him.
I know
Um,
that's true.
yeah,
Maybe he's bi or something. Who knows?
yeah, or I mean, homosexual people do have marriages too. I mean, yeah, it is what it is.
Yeah, we have a friend who did that.
Yeah, was married for years,
Yeah,
had kids, multiple
yeah,
kids, and then came out of the closet afterwards. And
yeah,
it's fine. I understand hiding it, especially with the hatred there was back in the 20s,
yeah.
20s and 30s. But regardless, it's just such an intriguing and interesting story that I really would have rather had two more episodes of this first volume, just so we could have touched a little more on George.
I, I,
Or not
I get,
George, not George, I'm sorry, Roger.
and the other thing that, I was wondering about is, maybe in this version of the movie, of the story, maybe the reason that we don't see Roger in present day is because George killed him.
Yeah, and you brought that up too because of the because
Because
Hutch has the bolt,
Hutch has
the
yeah,
power rod.
Hutch has like the power rod or the wand, whatever you want to call it. And we also know that George had already violated the code at one.
Right.
And we don't know how he violated. So did he violate by trying to rule, or did he violate by killing somebody? If he killed somebody, was
Was
it
it George?
was it Roger?
Was it Roger? Yeah. And the
Yeah.
one thing though that doesn't make much sense is when Roger got the power rod, as he was calling it, to become Blue Bolt, it only worked for his voice. It was his voice command. And now in present day, it only works for Hutch. So did somehow the power pass to Hutch? I don't understand. I just don't understand. And if so,
Or is Roger actually Hutch's dad, and but George is maybe like his adopted father or stepfather or
that's
something.
possibly that's possible too. And the other thing is, how did he get that power rod? Has he been carrying it with him his entire life? Because his dad left him in a strip club when he was 12. First of all, how do you get the 12-year-old in the strip club? Secondly, what kind of father leaves their kid at a strip club?
Yeah, I don't know.
But
I just wish I had one of those things so I could just like toss it at somebody who pisses me off and just have me like throw it at their face to catch it. Shark infested waters.
yeah, that was
Bad.
a pretty badass moment.
Or like middle of the sun.
Yeah. Well, and then he was like, and when he said that, he's like, I just broke a promise I said I'd never do, and that was, kill somebody.
Yeah.
Um, so
But did he really kill somebody? I mean, the sharks did the killing. He just made it possible for the sharks to do the killing.
he sent the power rod into Big Man's heart.
Oh, right, that's right. He did do that. Okay,
Yeah.
you're right.
I mean, granted, shark infested waters, there's a slight possibility he's just wet, and is able to swim away, but he did send it into Big Man's heart. So
Yeah, that's true.
the other thing too is that kind of it sounds like the only people that have powers are the original six and their offspring. But where did all these villains get their powers?
Yeah, I've been wondering that too. So
Where
maybe
did
so
where did
so
that dude Nick, that Nick of Time dude, where'd he come from? You
yeah.
know, it doesn't make sense to me that there's all these other people that supposedly have these superpowers now too.
Well, maybe they'll explore that origin story in the next volume.
Well, and I get Black Star because he's clearly an alien. It's the other ones that I don't understand.
Right, like I said, maybe we'll get more of that, in the next volume. Or
I hope so. And because they own the studio, I'm hoping that they do continue this. I'm hoping it's a successful enough for them to do it, because it's another one like Warrior Nun, where it left me at such a powerful ending that I need to see how this ending plays out.
yeah.
And I'll be disappointed if, like, I'm already disappointed that it's been almost a year since Warrior Nun, and we still don't have part 2 yet.
Well, right. I mean, and Netflix has been doing this a lot, like where they'll do like 3 or 4 seasons of a show and then cancel it regardless of the popularity, because they're just trying to generate more and more content to get more and
Right.
people hooked. People hooked on people that they don't. They're less concerned with pleasing their current viewers than they are getting new
Bringing
content and
in new.
drawing new viewers.
Right.
But like you said, this is something that's actually been generated by a studio that they own. that they could do, like they could make a shared universe with. Maybe they could even get big into, blockbuster movies with it, that kind of thing. Sell more
Well,
comic books with it. So this could be like a really big moneymaker for them if it's successful.
well,
So
and
so so
they have
so
an option to do what both DC and Marvel have done. What Disney and HBO or Time Warner. Time Warner owns HBO, right?
currently, yes.
No, Warner Brothers. Warner Brothers is DC, but they've been able to create their shared universes. Gives Netflix a chance to do the same thing.
I'm really confused with what's going on with that studio right now, because earlier this week AT&T announced plans to merge Warner Media and Discovery.
I thought they were already owned by the same parent company.
Right, but it sounds like maybe they're going to be like the same combined company. Like maybe like all the HBO Max stuff is going to include the Discovery Plus stuff now going forward,
Hmm.
and AT&T is not going to be involved in it. They'll have. I don't know. I don't under. I think the
And
guy. I think what I saw was that the head of Discovery is now also be the head of HBO.
and didn't they discontinue their relationship with AT&T, or I'm sorry, with DirecTV?
I really don't know.
I don't know. I thought I remember hearing something about it. Anyway, I'm sure Ryan will probably tell us in the in the comments. But I don't. I give this show at least a solid 9 out of 10. I love the way that they did the origin stories, like the simultaneous origin stories that you mentioned earlier. With now it's their kids, but they also went back and showed us how it all started. I liked the drama in it. I felt like the twist at the end is one of my favorite twists at the end of a TV season. I mean, I I'm not going to rank it up there with Dexter season 1 yet. But I really felt like, because Dexter season 1 was an 11 out of 10. I mean, that's easily the best first season I've ever seen of any show ever. But this, I enjoyed every bit of this show.
I thought it started a little slow, so I would probably get this one, but I'm probably still gonna give like an 8. So I'll go 8 out of 10.
Yeah,
So still,
yeah.
still really good show.
And the best part about it is it didn't feel like a one-off, like, okay, I saw this first season, I'm good. This is another one where it's like, oh my God, I need season 2 right now. I need it. I need to see what's happening. I need to know what's going to happen next. And that's it. It's that kind of thing does not happen on normal TV shows. Because if you look at like the DCU on TV, every season the Flash wraps up. Every season Arrow wrapped up. There was never really any carryover to the next season. And this is now twice that Netflix has done a great job of getting me so pumped up for season 2 that I enjoy that. I like that. I'm going to be disappointed as hell if they don't do a season 2, especially a Warrior Nun. I mean, Jesus Christ.
That's already been announced.
Yeah, thank God, because if they hadn't done Warrior Nun season 2 after that pile up at the end, I would have been pissed.
Yeah, they're the John Gwynn of TV shows, right? TV
John
producers.
Quinn. John Quinn. Wow.
Well, I told you yesterday, like how I couldn't wait to read the second book after reading the first book. That's
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, it reminds me. There was
I'm jealous of the 2 people that I know have already read the second book. That doesn't come out for a fucking year.
There were 2 video games that really.
His sons have already read it.
There were 2 video games that really captured me, to the point where when I finished the first one, because I joined them late. I joined them after they'd been out for a couple of issues or whatever. But there were 2 video games that the second I finished the first one, I got in my car and drove to Target and bought the second one. Assassin's Creed, the very first Assassin's Creed, with the way that ended, I was like, holy shit. Jumped in my car, went and got second one, played it through. And the other one was Mass Effect, the very first Mass Effect. The ending of that one was so great that I immediately went and bought Mass Effect 2. And that's with Jupiter's Legacy and Warrior Nun. I had that exact same feeling when the season ended. It's like, I need season 2.
Well,
so
be patient.
No, patience is not my thing.
All right, guys. So we're gonna take a short break. We'll be well, you don't need to know that because we're recording this, but
because we're doing a new format.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
and once we figure out exactly, like I can't say the next video. So the next video uploaded after this one is going to be Shane's book addiction, where we talk, what was it, Shadow of the Gods? Was
Shadow of the
that the name
Gods.
of it?
Yeah.
So that'll be the video that comes up next in our little timeline thing. Also, please check out if you like this at any point. You know, I know my face is ridiculously red, but you know what? My face is always ridiculously red, so it's fine. My Irishness doesn't go to my hair; it goes to my face.
And
Which is
if you donate to Patreon, he'll be able to afford to get some makeup to
spray
cover it up.
tan. Spray tan. That's what I
Makeup.
can afford. That you make
Makeup.
up. But anyway, if you like this video at any point, do us a favor, hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, ring the notification bell, because I mean,
Do it.
we put out at least 3. We're shooting for 3 videos a week as it is right now. And with our new format, you get to see our stupid facial expressions when one of us says something stupid and the other one goes, which is nothing you used to see before. So, and maybe we'll get Rhaegar in the next video. You know, so hit that like button, subscribe button, ring the notification bell. Just hit all the buttons that you can hit. And then if you get a chance, head over to our Patreon page. I'm still reorging it. It's not going to be as expensive anymore. There's going to be a lot more free content on there, but it's going to be basically our archives. The stuff that we've done since, Jesus, what we figured we started late 2015.
I think so.
With the original, what was it? What did we name that? It was a play on that Tony Kornheiser show.
Well, we did excuse the aggravation.
Excuse the aggravation, yeah.
And then we
then
also
the realest
did the
guys in
realist
the
guys
room
on the we did the
on the
realist guys on
radio.
the radio. Yeah.
What a disaster we've been. Anyway, do that. Push all the buttons, go like all the pages, do the stuff, and we will see you in the next video.
Thanks for watching, guys.